What if I told you that some of the most powerful natural remedies on earth are not locked behind a pharmacy counter at all, but growing wild in ditches, abandoned lots, fence lines, and maybe even your own backyard? Plants our grandparents could identify without thinking. Plants that help people survive injuries and illness long before modern clinics existed. Most folks have no idea that while we rush to the drugstore for every cut, cough, and ache, there are weeds and wild herbs with real research behind them, plus hundreds or thousands of years of recorded traditional use. Today on Grown Folks Gardening, I'm going to show you 20 forgotten medicinal plants that can change the way you look at what is growing around you. Stick around because number 17 has been used for more than 2,000 years, and modern research has been exploring its role against certain hard-to-treat bacteria. And number 20 is famous for a reason. It was the original inspiration behind aspirin before aspirin even had a name, and it may be growing near water not far from you. Quick note before we start, I'm not your doctor, and this video is not medical advice. Plants can be powerful, and powerful means you need to use them wisely. Some interact with medications, some are not safe in pregnancy, and some are only safe when used externally. If you have medical conditions or take prescriptions, talk to a qualified professional before using herbal remedies. Now let's get into it. Here are 20 forgotten medicinal plants, ranked from impressive to absolutely incredible. Number 1, calendula, also called pot marigold. Calendula is one of the most reliable skin plants you can grow, and it has a long reputation as a wound helper. People used it historically for minor cuts, scrapes, and irritated skin. Today, research has examined calendula preparations for supporting wound healing and soothing inflammation. Calendula officinalis is easy to grow in a home garden, and it will keep producing bright orange and yellow blooms for months. Here is why gardeners love it. Those flowers can be infused into oil and turned into a simple salve for minor skin irritation. Not a miracle cure, not a replacement for emergency care, but a practical plant ally for everyday life. One of the reasons calendula got pushed aside is simple. You cannot patent a flower. But if you want a low-drama garden plant that can also be part of your home apothecary, calendula earns a spot. Number 2, sea buckthorn, the skin and mucous membrane helper. Sea buckthorn is a thorny shrub with bright orange berries that has been used traditionally in parts of Asia and Europe. Modern research has looked at sea buckthorn oils for supporting skin barrier function and dryness, including certain mucous membrane complaints. The berries and seeds contain a unique fatty acid profile, including omega-7, which is one reason it became so interesting to researchers. It is not the easiest plant for every backyard, depending on climate and space, but it is one of the most talked about traditional plants for supporting dry, irritated tissues from the inside out. If you garden in colder regions and have room for a larger shrub, it is worth learning about. If you do not, the oil exists commercially, but always check quality and talk with your clinician if you are managing health conditions. Number 3, comfrey, the knit bone plant, with a big warning. Comfrey has a legendary reputation in folk traditions for helping bruises, sprains, and sore tissues when used on the skin. Modern studies have looked at topical comfrey preparations for pain and function in issues like sprains and some forms of joint discomfort. The reason it works topically comes from compounds like allantoin that support tissue repair. Now here is the grown folks' truth. Comfrey is for external use only. The plant contains pyrrolizidine alkaloids that can harm the liver if taken internally, especially over time. If you use comfrey, keep it on the outside and treat it like a tool, a topical oil or salve for limited short-term use. Respect the plant and it can be useful. Ignore the rules and you can create problems. Number 4, mullein, the lung soother. Mullein is that tall plant with soft, fuzzy leaves and a yellow flower spike you see in disturbed soil, roadsides, and field edges. Traditionally, mullein leaf tea was used for coughs and chest congestion. It contains compounds that can help loosen mucus, which is why it became a classic for wet coughs, where you want to clear the chest rather than suppress everything. If you make mullein tea, strain it well through a fine cloth because the tiny hairs on the leaf can be irritating if you swallow them. Mullein is a great example of a plant that does not shut the body up. It supports the body doing what it is trying to do, which is clearing irritation. Number 5, plantain, the trailside first aid leaf. Not the banana plant. I'm talking about broadleaf plantain, the common lawn weed with oval leaves and a tall seed stalk. People have used plantain leaf traditionally for bites, stings, minor scrapes, and irritated skin. Research has examined plantain species for anti-inflammatory and wound-supportive properties. The classic use is simple. Crush a clean leaf and apply it to a bite or sting as a quick field remedy. It is not a replacement for allergy care if you have severe reactions, but for everyday bug drama, it is one of the most practical, grows everywhere plants you can learn. Number 6, yarrow, the old school bleeding helper. Yarrow has a long history of being used in the field for minor bleeding and skin issues. Traditionally, crushed yarrow leaf was used as a stop the bleeding plant. Research has explored yarrow's bioactive compounds for anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial activity. If you are outdoors and get a small cut, knowing what yarrow looks like can be useful. It is not sterile gauze, but in a pinch, traditional practice used it to help manage minor bleeding while you got proper cleaning and care. Number 7, self-heal, also called heal-all. Self-heal grows low to the ground and makes purple flower spikes. Traditional use included sore throats, mouth irritation, and minor skin issues. Researchers have looked at compounds in self-heal for anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial activity, including interest in how plants may affect biofilms in lab settings. In a home garden sense, self-heal is a helpful plant to know, especially for simple mouth rinses made as a cooled tea. Again, we are talking supportive care, not replacing medical treatment for severe infection. Number 8, agrimony, the throat and gut soother. Agrimony has been used traditionally for sore throats as a gargle and for mild digestive upset because of its tannins, which have an astringent effect. Think tightening and toning irritated tissue. It was used historically in teas and rinses. If you ever had that scratchy throat that feels inflamed rather than infected, an herbal gargle made from safe plants can feel soothing. Agrimony is one of those old names that shows up again and again in European herbal traditions. Number 9, horehound, the original cough candy. White horehound was used so commonly for coughs that people made it into lozenges and candy. The plant has a bitter compound that traditionally supported productive coughing, meaning clearing mucus. It was never about silencing a cough at all costs. It was about helping the cough do its job. If you have ever used horehound candy, you have tasted history. It is a plant that got replaced by modern syrups, but the older approach still makes sense for certain situations. Number 10, boneset, the old-time fever herb. Boneset has a deep history in North American traditional use for fevers and flu-like illness. People made a hot, bitter tea and used it during early illness, often to encourage sweating. Modern evidence is mixed and not as robust as for some other plants, but boneset remains one of the most famous historical fever plants. This is a great moment to remind you. Just because something is traditional does not mean it is for everyone. If you have chronic conditions, take medications, or are pregnant, do not self-prescribe fever herbs. Learn, respect, and consult. Now, if this is already opening your eyes, hit the like button so this reaches more folks who are trying to learn what is growing around them. And subscribe to Grown Folks Gardening because we post every week, and the goal is simple. Save money, build skills, and grow something useful. All right, back to it. Number 11, blue vervain, the tension calmer. Blue vervain has been used traditionally as a nervine, meaning it was used for stress, tension, and that wired but tired feeling. It is not a knockout herb, but historically it was used to support the nervous system settling down. If you are a gardener who is always on the go, always thinking, always carrying stress in your shoulders, learning about gentle, calming herbs can be part of a bigger lifestyle shift. Just remember, calm herbs can still interact with medications, so check before you combine things. Number 12, elecampane, the deep lung tonic. Elecampane root has a long tradition in herbalism for stubborn, lingering respiratory issues. It was often used when someone had chronic chest congestion and needed longer-term support. The root has compounds that have been studied for antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties. This is not a sip once and you are done plant. Traditional use was steady, measured over time. It reminds you that some of the best garden medicine is slow and consistent, not flashy. Number 13, toothache plant, the mouth-numbing surprise. Toothache plant is famous because it can cause a strong tingling, numbing sensation in the mouth. People used it traditionally for tooth pain and mouth irritation. The effect is real, and it can be shocking the first time you try it. Let me be clear, numbing pain does not fix the cause. If you have tooth infection or severe dental pain, you need a dentist. But in the world of plant knowledge, this one is unforgettable, and it is a fun plant to grow because it teaches you just how strong plant compounds can be. Number 14, Oregon grape, the skin-focused shrub. Oregon grapefruit contains berberine-related compounds, and topical preparations have been studied for certain inflammatory skin conditions. It also has a long tradition of use in herbal systems for skin and digestion. This is one to treat with respect. It is powerful, bitter, and not a casual everyday tea. But it is a plant that bridges folk tradition and modern research in a way that makes it worth learning about. Number 15, yellow dock, the bitter digestion helper. Yellow dock root is traditionally used as a bitter tonic for digestion and elimination. Bitter plants can stimulate digestive processes and support appetite and bile flow for some people. It has also been used in certain skin traditions where the belief is that skin reflects internal balance. This is not a laxative you abuse. It is more like a gentle nudge for digestion when used appropriately. And like many roots, dose matters. Number 16, Usnea, the tree-hanging wilderness ally. Usnea is a lichen that looks like pale green string hanging from trees. It contains usnic acid, which has been studied for antimicrobial activity in lab settings. Traditionally, it was used topically in folk and wilderness practices. If you are harvesting lichens, do it ethically. They grow slowly and ecosystems need them. Use only small amounts and learn from reliable sources. This is one of those plants that feels like hidden knowledge because it is literally hanging in plain sight. Number 17, barberry, the ancient berberine powerhouse. Here it is, the one I told you about. Barberry has been used in traditional systems for more than 2,000 years. Its compounds, especially berberine, are heavily studied. Research has explored berberine for antimicrobial activity and for metabolic support like blood sugar and lipid balance, though it is not a replacement for medical treatment. This is where grown folks' wisdom matters. Berberine can interact with medications, including those for blood sugar and blood pressure. So if you are on prescriptions, you do not experiment casually. But from a plant knowledge perspective, barberry is one of the most scientifically discussed old world remedies we have. Number 18, red clover, the field flower with a purpose. Red clover is common in meadows and lawns and has been used traditionally for skin and for menopausal support due to its isoflavones. Research has examined red clover extracts for hot flashes with mixed results, and it remains widely used in herbal practice. If you want a gentle, nourishing tea plant that is easy to identify and harvest from clean areas, red clover is a classic. Just be mindful if you have hormone-sensitive conditions and talk to your clinician. Number 19, sassafras, history with a caution sign. Sassafras has a rich history in traditional use and early American herbal practice, but it also contains safrole, which raised safety concerns in high or long-term exposure. That is why modern guidance is cautious about internal use. I include it because plant knowledge includes knowing what not to use or what to use only with expert guidance. A mature gardener learns both sides, tradition and safety. Number 20, meadowsweet, the original inspiration behind aspirin. Meadowsweet contains salicylates, plant compounds related to pain and inflammation relief, and it has a deep history in European herbalism for aches and fever. Aspirin was developed from salicylic chemistry found in plants like this and willow. Meadowsweet is especially interesting because it was also used traditionally for stomach discomfort, which is the opposite of what many people experience with aspirin. That does not mean it is safe for everyone, but it is a reminder that whole plants often contain balancing compounds that isolated drugs do not. Meadowsweet grows in moist areas and makes clusters of creamy flowers with a sweet scent. A simple tea has been used traditionally for mild aches. If you are on blood thinners, have ulcers, or have aspirin sensitivity, do not use salicylate herbs without medical guidance. And there you have it. 20 forgotten medicinal plants, many of them growing right under our noses, proving that a garden can be more than food. It can be knowledge. It can be self-reliance. It can be a living library. Now I want to hear from you. Which plant on this list surprised you the most? Which one do you think you have growing near you right now? Drop it in the comments. I read them all. And your comment helps other folks learn too. If you want more videos like this that connect gardening to real-life skills, hit subscribe to Grown Folks Gardening. We post every week and we keep it practical, honest, and rooted in what actually works. Take care, stay curious, and I will see you in the next one.